Tiger fans, come tomorrow, the Detroit Tigers will finally have a Meadows on the roster. Now, I know you're thinking, wait a sec. I thought Austin Meadows had mental health issues, and there's no timetable for his return. Well, guess what? His brother's coming up, and the Tigers are finally going to have a Meadows on the roster that is actually going to play some games and potentially finally hit a home run as a Detroit Tiger. After weeks, months, I've been sitting here crying about it, bitching about it, saying the same thing every single week about the offense, saying the same thing every single week about how they're holding down prospects for too freaking long when the team's not playing for anything. The Tigers are finally recalling Parker Meadows. So we're going to do our normal This Week in Tiger Baseball, but we're going to split this in half. So let's first, in case people don't want to watch about what happened this week, let's first touch on Parker Meadows. So, this week, shit actually happened. There was a service time cutoff on Wednesday to where there was something with rookie status, and I'm not 100% sure of what it was. But players called up after Wednesday, they would still retain their rookie status and something with their service time. So, that day had come and gone. They didn't do anything. Well, I had said last week or the week before that AJ Hinch was talking about there was veterans that were clinging to the big leagues while there's people in AAA pushing for the major leagues. And now we're starting to see a little bit of that come to fruition, where Eric Haas gets DFA'd, and we're going to touch on that later. And now today, Parker Meadows has announced that he's coming up. So let's touch on Parker Meadows. Parker Meadows was kind of a struggling prospect for the first couple years of his career. He really had you look at 2021, he hit 210. It wasn't till 2022 where he broke out. The power really showed through. He became a really good defensive outfielder. He finally put himself on the map as a legitimate prospect for the Tigers. Now, if you guys can recall, back in spring training, Parker Meadows hit 7 or 8 home runs. And a lot of people thought, including myself, that he had potential to make it on the opening day roster because of how hot he was. Well, he got sent down, continued to be hot, and then he cooled off quite a bit to the point where it didn't look like there was going to be any time soon that he was going to come up and be on the roster. I want to say late May or early June, he turned it on. And right now, his overall numbers, he's hitting .256 with a .337 on base, .474 slugging percentage with an .812 OPS. He has got 19 home runs and 65 RBIs. Now, the thing that alarms me some is he's only got 57 walks to 123 strikeouts. Now, I can remember another left-handed power-hitting outfielder that the Tigers had. His name was Steven Moya. And Steven Moya had one year, I think, at Double-A where he blasted 30 or 35 home runs, but he struck out almost 200 times. And he really wasn't anything defensive-wise, but I knew from the rip that when you strike out that many times, especially I think it was in Double-A, that translating to the big leagues with that many strikeouts, it's hard to lower your strikeouts in the major leagues when you got that much swing and miss on top of they were just asking AJ Hinch about this week on MLB Network Radio about the leap between AAA and the major leagues now is as big as it's ever been because of the quality of pitching that's in the major leagues on staff to staff, especially with relievers. It used to be that people said the biggest gap was between A and Double-A because you're going from playing high school and some collegiate kids to where Double-A you got some guys with some experience and you're seeing some of the nastiest pitching that you've ever seen in your life before because of the level jump. Now, you got guys like Paul Skeens in the Coast League going up against guys like, Max Clark, where you got these stud dudes right off the rip. And the talent is so equally across the board. Well, now, because these guys are rising through the levels so fast and players aren't really staying in the minor leagues as much. I mean, the Angels just called up their first baseman that they just drafted less than 30 days ago. Or no, he had less than 30 games in the minor leagues, and they already brought him up. Now, Angels are a dumpster fire. No need to talk about them. But now, because the prospects are going through, the best prospects are going through the minors so fast and they're getting so fewer appearances and innings pitched, that the gap now between AAA and major leagues has become even bigger because of the talent that's split between. So when you see 57 strikeouts to 100, or 57 walks to 123 strikeouts, that's a little bit alarming. And when you come up to the big leagues and you're going to see the kind of pitching you do, you wouldn't equate that to lowering any of it. Now, Riley Green and Torkelson have struck out at that kind of pace as well so far this year. But, we're going to touch on Torkelson in this video here in a bit. They've been able to bomb the ball, and Green's been able to make a lot of consistent contact, so they've been able to get through the amount of strikeouts that they've, amassed. But, we will see. The fact that they're finally bringing up another bat that they desperately need, it's pivotal, because you can't keep having these veterans taking at bats away from all these young guys that are performing at the higher minor league level. Like Justin Hunter Malloy, he has got to be next. I mean, the guy's got, I think, 17 or 18 home runs. I actually got his stats up right now. I came prepared. Justin Hunter Malloy's got 18 home runs and 68 RBIs, and he's got a .416 on base. He's hitting .280. He's got 87 walks to 114 strikeouts. It's a lot of strikeouts. It's more than he had last year in AA when he was almost 1-1. But, I mean, he's walking a lot, and, he's got a good plate discipline, and he's been hot as of late. Parker Meadows, his last 7 days, he's hitting only .208, but he's got 3 home runs. The last month, he's hitting .233 with a .324 on base, but he's slugging almost .490 with an .813 OPS plus, and he's got 5 home runs this month. Listen, Zach McKinstry stinks. Nick Maton sucks. Andy Ibanez is not a fucking player that you're going to sit here and build your team around. It's time. I don't care if Akil Baddoo's been hitting the ball out of the ball yard a little bit more this past week. Overall, this year, he stinks. Parker Meadows is a better outfielder than he is anyways. Just wait to see this kid patrol center field. They call him a baby giraffe. The kid can fucking fly. It's about goddamn time Scott Harris unlocked the door from Toledo to Detroit and said, hey, jump on the turnpike and head up 75. Let's go. So at least now we're going to see one of the pieces down there get an opportunity. And it's going to be crazy to see an actual Meadows with a Tigers jersey on that's actually fucking playing. Considering Austin Meadows, I think, has only played 42 games as the Tiger, never even hit a home run, and he's not going to play another game the rest of this year. I think if Parker Meadows plays enough games, he might be able to get close to how many games that Austin played as a Tiger, as long as he doesn't get hurt, which is insane in a month and a half, because it's mid-August. He could very well play more games as a Tiger than Austin has. Hopefully hit more home runs than him. But I'm stoked. Like, this isn't a shit on Austin Meadows thing. It's about fucking time. Like, it is. Like I said, I've been on here every single week bitching and moaning that they are not giving these guys who are playing better, that have pushed and pushed and pushed, and yet all these at-bats have been given to these bums consistently. And now it's time. He's going to come up. You can see. Now, like I always caveat every time a big prospect's brought up, like I caveated with Riley Green last year. And such was the case because, remember Green got out to that big start. Like, he reached base, 4 times in his debut. And then all of a sudden he slumped real bad. Real bad. He came out this year and slumped real bad. And now look, he's got I think the 3rd highest batting average in the American League. So, rookies are rookies. This is a guy that already struck out a lot in AAA. This is a guy that's getting bumped up. He's not going to save the season. You're not going to put him and have him carry a lineup. And he's not the complete answer to all the Tigers' problems. But they're playing for nothing. You have an opportunity to give him at-bats. You have an opportunity that if he struggles and he has a chance to learn at the highest level for however many weeks we have left, 6 weeks, that's okay. Because you know something? Coming into spring training next year, you'll see. How is he defensively? How consistent was he out there? How is his at-bats? What's he like in certain counts? Does he have a lot of leverage counts where he chases pitches off the plate when he had leverage in the counts? You know, what is he like against left-handed on left? You know, you're going to learn about all that kind of stuff, and you're going to get an idea of it. Because you know you're not going to get an idea of it? Him fucking playing in Toledo and crushing AAA pitching. Like, it's about time. So, Parker Meadows is finally getting called up. And I think it's just a matter of time before Justin Henry Malloy gets called up. Like I said, Justin Henry Malloy is hitting .280 with a .416 on base, and he's got 18 home runs. Guys, it's got to be just a matter of time before he is up on the roster and the Tigers start dropping some of these bums that have been clogging up the roster and have not provided any kind of production in a while. Now, moving on to this week and about some of the other moves that had happened. Oh, and I wanted to touch it before we move on real quick. I wanted to touch on Colt Keith. Colt Keith, he's only hitting 118 over his last 4 games. He's hitting 244 over the last 20 games. He's got 4 homers and 15 RBIs. He's got 21 strikeouts to 8 walks. So the chance of him getting called up might not be so great. I think if we've learned one thing about how long that Scott Harris wants these guys to get AAA at-bats and how many AAA at-bats they want them to get, because, I mean, Parker Meadows was played 113 games. This might be, like I had said a couple weeks ago, where I don't think he's going to get called up because Scott Harris is going to want him to continue to get at-bats at that level, considering that he's kind of struggled over the last couple of weeks. So, will he get called up? I doubt it. I honestly kind of think they might bring up Ryan Kreidler because, you know, Kreidler's already been in the big leagues. He's got really good defensive versatility over the infield, and he's going to continue to let Colt Keith get minor league at-bats, even with the roster expanding. So, I don't know. I don't think Colt Keith's going to get called up. I think Justin Henry Malloy is going to get called up, and I think Ryan Kreidler might get another shot. Now, the biggest question is who goes? Now, I know Badu has had a few home runs this past week, and his extra base power is looking like it's coming back. But do they send him down? Because if you send down a right-handed hitter, you know, you can't have that many lefties on a roster because especially how Hinch platoons. So I think it's got to be some kind of somebody who's a lefty outfielder. So, or an infielder because they have, you know, a lot of versatility in the infield. So I'm thinking it's either going to be Nick Maton who's going to get sent out back down to AAA, or Akil Baddoo is going to get sent down to AAA, or they might release somebody like Zach McKinstry or Andy Ibanez. I'm not 100% sure. We will see. But I'm at least happy that the door is open and they're finally starting to bring some of this talent up that's been exceeding at the AAA level. So, okay, so let's move on to this week that was. So, all of a sudden, the Tigers can hit home runs. I don't know what has clicked in these guys' brains over the last couple of weeks, but everyone that called Spencer Torkelson a bust, and I was on here defending him for as much as I did last year when he was at his lowest, even when he got sent out, and everyone's saying how he was a bust because he got sit down last year. This is where you look stupid because Torkelson is leading the team in homers. I think he's got 6 home runs this week. He had, I think, his 3rd multi-home run game over the last week. Him and Kerry Carpenter right now. Kerry Carpenter, I think, had 5 or 6 home runs. He's got almost 20. Spencer Torkelson could have hit 3 home runs this series against the Guardians. First, he hit the one game in the doubleheader. He had a ball off the top of the wall. Just missed it by 2 feet. He had a ball yesterday he hit that looked like it might have went over the yellow line, but he couldn't get a clear and convincing view. That should have been a home run. And then he had a ball today. He smacked opposite field. I mean, this guy's at bats. This is the most locked in I have ever seen him. He went from last year when I could name all the hits that he had balls hit hard because they were so few and far and in between, to where this man, he could go 1 for 3 or 0 for 4, but he is smacking balls everywhere, and they're with authority. He is hitting at least 2 balls a night that have a chance to go out, it seems right now. And the consistency of it, how he's attacking fastballs, he is feasting. I wish I don't have his numbers in front of me, obviously, but I wish I could see what he's hitting on curveballs this year, because all of a sudden, he's not getting fooled on breaking balls like he was. This man, if you throw Spencer Torkelson an inside breaking ball, I bet you he is hitting like 400 on those pitches, because he loves breaking balls down and in and over, middle, out over the plate and down. He is fucking crushing breaking balls, particularly curveballs. And he's not as late on fastballs anymore, just smacking them with authority. And when you see him hitting home runs opposite field like he has, that's how you know someone is locked in, and that's how you know someone is dialed. And then you look at Carpenter. This man goes into Boston, multi-home run games. There was a game in Minnesota where it was a close game going in to, I think, the 7th or 8th, and Carpenter and Spencer Torkelson each hit home runs in that one inning and completely put the game out of reach for the Twins. And Rocco Baldelli, you want to talk about something really nice to say about like a team, even though the Tigers are bad. He's talking about how the Tigers whooped their ass this year, and he's not sad to not see them anymore. And this is a team that's a first-place squad. The Tigers have like 12 or 13 games over 500 against the teams in the AL Central. It's so weird that a team that is played overall so bad and the record looks as shitty as it does, how much they beat the shit out of their own division this year, because they won the season series with the Twins. Their win over the Guardians today secured their first season series victory over the Guardians since 2015. So they're getting the job done against AL Central opponents, but they can't beat anyone else. Like, they got absolutely eaten up by the AL East this year. They haven't done particularly well against good teams, with overall good teams. But, man, have they destroyed the division this year. But what I'm most impressed by is this year they're all of a sudden they've hit home runs. They have 125 home runs, I think, 123 or 124 games. They only hit 110 all of last year. Spencer Torkelson legitimately might hit 31 or 32 home runs this year. And that's insane that this guy who didn't even hit 10 last year kind of struggled out the rip again this year. And now all of a sudden, the last 2 months, now his average still isn't that pretty. But if you look at the OPS and the slugging, my God, is it going up. I don't have his, I want to look at I need to look at what his ISO is and check that out, because I could imagine over the last couple weeks it's gone up. This man, by the end of the year, after starting how he started, you look at his since July, he has, I think he has tied with Freddie Freeman or more home runs than Freddie Freeman. He's been fucking destroying. And Carpenter too. And Riley Green just keeps hitting. This is the most positive the Tigers have looked like to have a potential core of hitters that are worth a shit in years. And almost 10 years. Since you look at, it's probably since 2016 since they've had any kind of a core that look like they have some guys that can hit, since when they had like JD and Miggy and Justin Upton and Yoenis Cespedes. That was the last time you could look at this team that had a legitimate core of hitters that you could go, there's a few guys on this team you don't want to pitch to right now. And the nice thing is, like, Akil Baddoo has been hitting a little bit more, and he's been hitting the ball out of the ball yard, so he's been contributing some. But don't get too sucked in yet. This team overall is still not very good. They had a good road trip, but like you look at Boston, a couple of them games slipped away, games they should have won. Like you look at this Guardian series, like they had that doubleheader game, and they took the first game of the doubleheader, then the offense died after they got quick 3 runs in the first inning, and it was like nothing the rest of the game. They had the lead 1-0 going into the 8th in game 2 of that game, and they end up blowing it. And Jose Cisnero, man, and it was weird, was ironic, as it was a Joey Wentz start. Joey Wentz actually pitched a good start, actually pitched well, and the bullpen ends up blowing it because Jose Cisnero has been absolute trash after he was really good. I think in the month of June, he's been shit. So like they had a legitimate shot to sweep this series against the Guardians. But, you know, like they blow a game like that. They were only 1 game over 500 overall for the road trip. So, I mean, You didn't really gain any kind of games. It's cool that they beat up on their division, but now, they're coming home to play the Cubs. And the Cubs got some guys that can hit. Like, Morel is a good hitter. He's a clutch guy. Cody Bellinger is having an absolutely outstanding year, and he's really coming back and been really good, looking like his old MVP stuff. So you got a guy like that, and you got Ian Happ, who he can put the ball out of the yard, and he's a good hitter. So, and then like the Cubs have gotten good pitching too, and Jeimer Candelario, after I don't know what his numbers are right now, but I know after they got him. Their offense at one point in time after the trade deadline, they scored like 35 runs in 2 days. And they had set their franchise record for runs scored in a 2-day span. So this is an offense that is pretty deep throughout. Like Dansby Swanson too, I can't forget about him. This is an offense that's pretty deep throughout. This is an offense that could put up some runs. So we're gonna see, It's cool they went into Boston. They lost. They only took one of the 2 games. Then they go to Minnesota and take the series to Minnesota. Sick. Great. Awesome. Then they go into Cleveland and do what they needed to do, take the series from them. But, they're going to come home and they're going to play a good team. And are we going to see the team that inconsistently defensively, a lot of base running blunders, the offense quiets down again because teams, adjust to the adjustments that the hitters have made. And say Torkelson or Kerry Carpenter has a quiet series. Can somebody else besides one of those 2 guys step up and contribute in the lineup? Because right now, they're getting timely hits. Because right now, it's Kerry Bonds and Spencer Sosa out there from the left and right side fucking parking home runs like it's 1998 right now. So this is like a thing, like a test. This is a time thing because something this whole season, we've seen it before. The offense goes stupid cold. And then you'll have a week like this where they're going to kind of suck you back in. You're like, whoa, they got all these home runs. They've already more home runs than they hit all last year with more than a month ago. And you see Kerry Carpenter as hot as he is. And Torkelson's hitting a home run almost every game, it seems like. And, they beating the shit out of their division opponent. It's great. And you see some decently consistent offensive performances. But then it's going to be the next week where they win. They go 3-7. And the offense is shit. And you get blow-up performances by the bullpen. Thank God Alex Lang's starting to look a little bit better. He had a 1-2-3 inning save out there today. And A.J. Hinch has kind of taken him out of extreme leverage spots for now to try to gain his confidence back so he can work more at throwing strikes, more so doing it in the biggest situations. Thank God for guys like Tyler Holton and Jason Foley. They've done absolutely great work. That whole bullpen in general really has, but I don't know. I don't want to fall for it again. I'm stoked they're bringing up Parker Meadows. I'm stoked that, like I said, the doorway from Toledo to Detroit is finally open. And it's just a matter of days before Justin Henry Malloy's up here. I'm waiting to see who's going to be the guy sent down for it. But don't get sucked in too much yet because they have good teams coming up. They got to play the Cubs, and then pretty soon I think Houston's in there, or maybe I know New York is for sure in there and whatnot. I can actually check real quick. So just don't get too sucked in too fast because something, they've done this before and they've done this a lot so far this season, and I'm gonna believe it when I see it. Okay, so the upcoming schedule is they play the Cubs for 3, and then they're gonna play Houston for 3, and then New York for 4. The Cubs are a team that could do some damage against the Tigers, and Houston, that team's fucking good. And I hope the Tigers face Justin Verlander again because I'd like to beat him twice, once as a Met and once as an Astro this year at Comerica Park. And then the Yankees stink. I legitimately think the Tigers could take 3 or 4 from the Yankees. And you know something? That's a fucking huge test for the Tigers this week because the Yankees suck. Their offense is trash. Julio Rodriguez in 4 games had more hits than the Yankees did combined in 4 games. So, you know something? That's a huge test because the Tigers have sucked ass against the AL East this year. The Yankees are a shit team, and the Yankees have a terrible offense. If the Tigers can take 2 or 3 from the Cubs, take 1 of 3 from the Astros, and then take 3 or 4 from the Yankees, then I might start believing that this team, they might have some kind of a formula, and they might have some kind of an idea that coming into next year, they might be a team that you can fuck around and find out on. They might be a team that you add a couple more pieces in there and add couple more legit bats, and you give some of these minor leaguers an opportunity and give them a chance to see what they can do. This might be a team because they play so well in your division and their pitching's good. You never know. But watch them get swept by the Cubs, take 1 of 3 from the Astros, and then take 1 of 4 from that fucking Yankees. That would be such a Tigers thing to do, because that's what it's been all year, where they'll have stretches like this. Because, like I said, you got to see what the offense is going to do when Torkelson and Carpenter have a couple of quiet games and see who else has got to step up. Because, like, Matt Vierling he's had, like, no power. And Nick Maton sucks. He can't do anything. And Andy Ibanez hasn't been very good. And Zach McKinstry hasn't been very good. You know, they designated Eric Haas for assignment, and now they're going to have Carson Kelly. Now, Jake Rogers has been really good this year. He's a guy that can burn you, but, you know, he strikes out a lot. And Carson Kelly is only marginally better than Eric Haas. And I think Eric Haas is going to end up coming back to the Tigers because I think he's going to clear waivers, no problem, and accept a AAA assignment too. So I'm taking this all with a grain of salt. I'm extremely stoked with how they played this week, and I'm extremely stoked that they have taken season series from their divisional opponents, and I'm extremely stoked that Parker Meadows is finally here, and we're going to see an actual Meadows that laces up every day right now. But I'm still taking this with a grain of salt. This is a prove-it week. This is a chance for the Tigers to prove that they have maybe some kind of a nucleus brewing, and that next year could finally be a year where we see an above 500 team. But I'm gonna take all this with a grain of salt. I'm happy, but we'll see. So I will be back next Sunday. We'll talk about the week it was. We'll talk about Parker Meadows. Maybe we'll talk about how Carson Kelly did in his first few starts as the Tiger. Maybe we'll have an emergency video this week because Justin Henry-Malloy gets called up. That'd be sick. But I don't know. We'll see. Overall, good week from the squad. Like, I ain't trying to shit on them this week. It was fucking fun. Gary Carpenter and Spencer Torkelson are on another level, and Riley Green's a stud. The pitching overall was good. So, hope to keep it going. Go Tigers.